What's up, guys? Stevie B here with the hammer.
Indeed, baby. You know who it is.
So today we're gonna do a mock draft. We're gonna do a two QB mock draft with two wide receivers, two flexes, and two running backs with a tight end. And we're just gonna talk about some things that's going on as well, fantasy wise, and just in general. But the first thing we're gonna talk about, I guess, is James Robinson seems to be ready to come back. What do you think about that, Hammer?
I mean, I I don't really have a strong feel on what his role is going to be. He's on Jacksonville still.
Yep.
They got Etienne. You know, I don't know what his role is going to be. I genuinely don't, and I feel like with Etienne there, they got a boatload of weapons that they signed in free agency. I know most teams are looking for that 1-2 punch to kind of preserve their running backs down the stretch. So if he gets some goal line work, Etienne's coming off an injury as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the mix of work is, if it's 60-40, 70-30. I mean, James Robinson was tremendous. He had that breakout year, and then they draft Etienne. Etienne gets hurt, and it's like, damn, like this guy was one of the he was picked up off of waivers 2 years ago and ran people to at least a shot at the fantasy championship. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was it was interesting to see them pick, to see them pick up Etienne, when you felt like, damn, you had other needs, and Robinson was a really productive back. So yeah, so it's really interesting. I don't know if they're really going to give him a lot of carries. I'm pretty sure they want Etienne to get the main totes there. So, but like I said, there's always plenty of room for two running backs, in a particular backfield, which limits the fantasy value of kind of each guy. So, he probably won't be more than a flex at best, unless Etienne gets hurt, and then you're in business.
Yeah. I mean, ETN is one of the best pass catching backs we've seen come out of college in a long time. So, you know, and especially he played with Trevor Lawrence, so they already have that little bit of connection.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think James Robinson is good, and I think he'll be eased back in. He does scare me because he's coming back, from that injury. So
right. They both are really.
I don't think he'll even be 100%. So I expect ETN to get a little bit more work, but I expect him to be way more involved in the pass game as well. So, even if the offense is bad, ETN is out there, catching passes. So I think he can do a lot more damage than James Robinson can, at least for right now. I mean, we'll see how it progresses, how they wound up using them, but that's at least how I think, how I figure it to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think that a lot of coaches, and Doug Peterson's now the head coach in Jacksonville, which obviously I think is a massive upgrade from what they had last year, Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
So I think he'll bring some structure to that offense, and he'll really give them a chance to, put up some good points and get some balance out of both running backs.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think I'm just avoiding both of them in fantasy. I just don't think I really want to be part of it, even though I really do like ETN. I mean, I'll take ETN if he falls.
So
I
what round though? What's the top
right
back?
right now. I mean, right now he's going in like the third. end of third. He's been creeping up. At first, it was like, you can get him in the fourth, fifth, and it just as we get closer, it just keeps creeping up. But now with the news of James Robinson, I don't know. I guess I would suppose that you know that he would now fall again a little bit, but we'll see. Kind of, we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, I just it always feels like there are maybe 5 guys who are gonna the unquestionable number one running back type guys. And even a situation with my favorite team, the Packers, it was the Aaron Jones show, and now it's moving to a split. It's pretty much going to be a split. I could see Aaron Jones has the higher ceiling because he's more explosive, but you know that those splits are just they're interesting. They're really interesting down the stretch, and I think it's so hard, especially with running backs, especially when you're trying to draft running backs, to gauge what they're really going to give you for the value and where you're picking them at. Obviously, if you're getting Etienne in the 4th round or the late 3rd, then you're like, all right, that there's some value there.
Yeah, I mean, he's I would be okay with him as my RB2, but then again, I mean, I don't know now from that, how much is James Robinson going to cut into now what ETN could have been, and would you rather draft someone else in that range? I mean, you've got just thinking now in this draft we're just doing now. I mean, this is 2 QB, so maybe slightly different than normal if it was 1 QB, but I mean, look at the guys going around them: Pittman, Metcalf, Dobbins, McLaurin, Montgomery, Brees Hall. Would you rather take one of those guys?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of what it comes down to now. But
and also too, what happens in those situations a lot is you're forced to not waste draft capital, but you're forced to use draft capital on both of those guys.
Yeah.
At least you might have to reach. If you take Etienne in the 3rd or 4th round, you're probably going to have to reach a little bit for Robinson, maybe in that 7th, 8th round, depending on how long your draft is. But you're probably going to have to target him pretty quickly because running back gets thin very quickly.
Yeah.
And it just leaves you in a little bit of a bind. But if you want to go that route, I think having a plan going into the draft, if you know you're gonna draft Etienne, or if you have the chance and he's there, you have to automatically pivot and target James Robinson and be like, listen, I'm gonna target him, in such and such round. And if you have to reach a little bit, so be it. But that might pay dividends for you down the line.
Yeah, it's not even worth it at that point. That's why I'm like, I don't even want to mess with that. But let's talk about Julio Jones, I guess, now in Tampa Bay. Crazy. Now he goes to play with the GOAT. But he is
I'm over it. I'm over it.
33. So, I am, of the, listen, just pump the brakes a little bit. He did in his prime, years and years ago.
No, I totally.
Fact is, the last 2 years he's been hurt. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. He could be great with Tom Brady. He could have that, a crazy Randy Moss type season maybe, but the chances of that are so slim that you can't just say that or go into it looking at that. So
yeah,
wide receiver 3. They have a bunch of guys now there. Godwin now is apparently okay and back. So.
They signed Russell Gage.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They got Russell Gage. So there's just there's a few guys.
They picked up your boy Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah. Yeah. So they got him. They got Braid. They got a couple guys over there.
Leonard Fournette catches a ton of passes to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I had Julio Jones on teams back in 2014, 2015, 2016, and the guy was he was a beast. He was an absolute beast. He didn't catch as many touchdowns as I would like from a wide receiver 1, but he certainly made up for it with yards and receptions and targets and all that good stuff. But at the same time, it was just He was just an absolute monster. In the last 2 years, you could just see the clear deterioration of his health. He's a big dude that runs really fast, so he took a lot of hits because he was a physical type receiver, and I don't know how much he has left. Now, I think the fact that he doesn't have to come in there and be that guy, that wide receiver 2, like he was expected to be in Tennessee. You know, if he's the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, now, you know, he can be productive in that role. But everybody just looks at Julio Jones and they think this is Julio Jones from 5 years ago, and that's clearly not the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
And listen, if you pick up Julio Jones in a draft, and you got people out there, we have people in our dynasty league that go giddy for the name. You could take them behind the woodshed and get good value for them.
What was offered for Julio Jones in this dynasty league kind of it blew my mind. I was like, damn, that should have been an automatic smash. The person declined it because I think they're a little same kind of thing. It's like you get that FOMO, that fear of missing out. Like you don't want to miss out on it, you know? But you can't. You can't.
Yeah, there's way too much competition in Tampa, and his health is a major concern. So to place any value on him, anything of value to give up, if you're giving up a 3rd or a 4th round draft pick for him, maybe even a 2nd, I you know, if you feel like he's a missing piece, but how much is he really going to, is he even going to be healthy when it counts?
So what I was just saying, so what was offered for Julio Jones was Christian Kirk, a 2023 2nd round pick, and Isaiah Spiller, if I'm not mistaken, right? Was that what it was?
I don't remember, honestly.
I think that's what it was. And this team that has Julio is kind of like rebuilding. I don't think they're in contention. So I mean, it's a great trade that I would definitely take. I'll take the younger guy. I'll take the 2nd round pick. I'll take those 2 chances, you know, and then I'll take the rookie running back as well, you know, in a high-powered offense. So, yeah, you know, give me that any day of the week. You know, you can have Julio if, you know, he's on my dynasty team, but he's not. So I don't think I'll carry any receiver past the age of like 29 on my dynasty team.
I'm not so crazy on that in terms of I'm not letting any guy past a certain age because
I'm just messing around.
But I think you're serious because you are like that.
Because I want the value. So if I can get good value, then yeah, like, you know, if I got Cheetah on my team right now, and if I win the ship this year, like, and he does good, I'm not opposed to trading him at top dollar and get, you know, depending what I get. Obviously, I'm not just automatically trading him. I want the absolute best, you know, that I can get. I'm not just trading them for nothing or, you know, for scraps. So
yeah, no, for sure. And I think another part of it too is you want to try and you won't really want to try and be a real GM like in the NFL where you got to see if you can get rid of a guy a year early rather than a year late.
Yeah,
you want to have to be a little bit of a Bill Belichick in this sense. Like I traded DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. I traded Derrick Henry in the offseason, guys that are getting older, guys that have some mileage on their legs. And I ended up with Jamar Chase and George Kittle as the 2 centerpieces of giving away those 2 guys. So I'm like, yo, let's roll now because I got 2 young studs. And, you know, Kittle's a little bit older, but he's still in his prime.
Yeah.
So I feel like the value is definitely there.
Yeah, and I'd say, you know, especially in Dynasty, I mean, Henry could still roll. I mean, he could this season have a 2,000 yards, but, you know, it's just what's the chances of that? And again, like you said, you know, do you want to be too early or too late? You know, you want to get it up early or be too late? So, you know, because if he breaks down, you're not getting nothing. So, you know, but let's look at this draft real quick. So this was just a redraft, 2 QB. I was in number 4 slot. Looks like Hammer was over here in number 9 slot. I went 2 QBs right off the bat.
I went pretty quickly too.
And the reason why I did it is because Patrick Mahomes was still there on that second pick. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take the two, top 5 quarterbacks, in a 2 QB league if he's still there.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Normally that probably shouldn't happen, but there was a few more flex positions in this league, so that could have been why that was skewed a little bit as well. But what about you, Hammer? You went 2-3.
Yeah, and so I was able to get Jamar Chase with the
109. Yeah. Oh, you got the combo.
It was beautiful. It was just everything was set up for me. If I had this team going in, I would absolutely love it. Honestly,
I would love my team too. Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie.
Well, with Mahomes and Allen, you're automatically gonna be golden. And then the good trio of receivers: Metcalf, DJ Moore, who you take in. It seems like every single draft you take DJ Moore, no matter what.
He's just there. He's just He's just there. I mean, he's just value, and he's my wide receiver 3 here, one of my flex.
And I was able. You take him over Hollywood.
Where did Hollywood go? I don't think
after 3 picks after.
2, 3, 4. Yeah, Hollywood was right after. Yeah, I'll take DJ Moore over Hollywood because
over Waddle too.
It was tough. I was thinking it was real tough between Moore and Waddle. I'm not a crazy huge fan of Sutton. I've taken him in a few drafts, but I'm not a huge fan of taking him. And then Marquise Brown, I like as well. If he's fine, if he's my wide receiver 3. I don't know. I worry a little bit maybe when D-Hop comes back of just him getting pure like volume.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my only concern.
In a redraft, I think the value for Hollywood is higher because automatically for those first 6 games, he's going to be the de facto wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I can see that. But DJ Moore is always the wide receiver 1, and he commands 9-10 targets every game. So I'll take the upside and just knowing that DJ Moore is going to get those targets.
Yeah, it was just interesting as I was looking at it, just seeing after.
It's close. I can't complain. If you want to go with, Hollywood, I can't. There's not like, oh my God, like how can you do that? No, it's it's all close. They're all in that same range. And Waddle too. I would thinking maybe to take Waddle as well, but go ahead.
I will say this. So I got Allen Robinson at the 5.9. A lot of people, and this, if we do a breakout or a comeback, really both, more comeback, but definitely more breakout, because I think people have forgotten what Allen Robinson can do. He doesn't have any injury history. It's nothing like that. He was just playing in a terrible offense in Chicago over the last couple of years with terrible stability at quarterback. And for him to slot in as the number 2 and a big red zone target for Matthew Stafford opposite Cooper Kupp, I absolutely love Allen Robinson this year the same way I loved Cooper Kupp last year. I'm not saying he's going to put up the numbers, but I could see Allen Robinson flirting with double-digit touchdowns this season.
Yeah, I mean, I like Allen Robinson as well. He's still an elite receiver.
He's still good.
And, if anybody knows about Matt Harmon's reception perception, I mean, this guy is in, crazy the way he wins on his routes. I mean, against man, against zone, against press. So,
and don't forget, when he was playing in Jacksonville, he wasn't exactly playing with a stud quarterback in Blake Bortles. And he was able to really put up some really good numbers. And he was a wide receiver 1. I'm checking out his history. In 2020, he was wide receiver 12, 9 in PPR, 7 the year before that. And in 2015, he was PPR number 6, standard number 4. So this guy, he really has excellent breakout potential. He's been over 1,400 yards. He's had 14 touchdowns in a single season. I think he could easily flirt with 10 touchdowns and be in that wide receiver 15 range.
Yeah, I like him as well. But so yeah, after my 2 QBs, I went to 3 wide receivers, just because I guess the way it's set up, being able to start, 4 wide receivers,
And it's still pretty good value there.
and then decided to go running back. But I was still able to get guys that I like. I like Tony Pollard this year. I mean, he's now in the slot. They got him in the backfield with Zeke now. With what we've been hearing coming from camp, they got both of them in the backfield. So, and then still being able to get Singletary, who's running with the ones. That is just it's his job. He's just the main guy that's going to get that first and second down work. So, and then being able to get Penny also afterwards with Ayuk. Ayuk is a guy that I think could break out crazy. I mean, a bold prediction for me is Brandon Ayuk has a better season than Deebo Samuel this year.
Oh,
Ayuk can play, and I think it's time for him. And him and Lance got a little connection going on there.
So the interesting thing with Ayuk, a lot of people had him pegged as the breakout star this past season, 2021, and it just never. It was the Debo show, really.
He found himself in the doghouse, though, too. If you remember, he got himself with Shanahan. So you're in the doghouse. I mean, ask Trey Sermon how that is.
I mean, still 800 yards and 5 touchdowns being in the doghouse. That tells you what kind of talent he has. And I actually liked him a little bit as I started watching him a little more, and it just never felt like it materialized completely last season, but he's definitely there. There's no injury concern, you know what I mean? So that's a plus, obviously. He's only going into his 3rd season, so there's still room for upside, which you're absolutely right about.
Yeah, and then just like Allen Robinson, I mean, he grades high in perception reception. The guy wins routes. I mean, and after that, I was able to grab Penny. So I'm happy with the RBs I was able to get. Being that I waited until the 6th round to grab one. So, Hammer, I guess talk about the other couple picks you made after the Herbert Burrow.
I picked up David Montgomery, and I've never been a huge fan of Montgomery, but for somebody that's going to command a good percentage of offense, I felt like at least if I could get a low end, because he realistically, he is a low-end RB1, finishing 19th last year, but 4th the year before that in 2020. So, and he gets a ton of targets. He's really good in the passing game with targets, 300 yards last year, 438 the year before that. So I felt like if I could get at least a low-end RB1, high-end RB2 to command good production from at least one of my running back spots, I'm in good shape. I went with Allen Robinson, which I touched on, Dalton Schultz. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, we did an episode. I think we did a mock draft, and you convinced me that Dalton Schultz is going to be amazing. So if he's there, I'm going to grab him. It does make.
I mean, the guy finished tight end 3. I mean, he's not the most athletic guy in the world. I mean, he's replaceable, but he just is getting it done. I mean, Dak Prescott throws the guy the ball.
Yeah, and the opportunities are going to be there. Obviously, we touched on Dallas, with the CD Lamb stuff. No Amari, Michael Gallup's hurt. Tolbert's just a rookie. Tony Pollard does get some catches, but I think from the tight end spot, even if he regresses a little bit to tight end 5, you're still in good shape there. So I feel like if I could win that position, that'll help me out. And then a guy I'm not crazy about either, Rashad Bateman. If he's my wide receiver, what is he? Would be my wide receiver 3, maybe?
Yeah.
Wide receiver 4, maybe? And
wide receiver 3 right now.
Yeah, so if he's my wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, depending on how I feel, because I love me some Alan Lazard, then I'm in good shape. James Cook I took. I know you love Singletary, but if James Cook can get some of that passing down action, that's
he's already he's already in camp running with the ones as the pass catching guy there. So and Singletary's running with the one as the as the main which is what I expected. I didn't expect anything else really, and I think even still going throughout the season that stays true. I mean, I like James Cook, but he's not a workhorse guy. You know, he's just not. He
But
never was.
you do like this. You do like the situation he is in, so that's got to mean something.
Absolutely, absolutely. So he's good, you know, as a flex guy. And I mean, who knows? Maybe he goes crazy and is, you know, in the RB2 category. But that, you know, we'll
It's
see.
crazy too, because we've seen a lot of these RBs, especially early on in their first 1 to 3 years. That's where you got to get them right out of the draft, in that year 1 to 4 window. If you could get those guys and strike gold, damn, you're really getting tremendous value.
Now, just to touch on Schultz again, dynasty wise, I know I talked about that dynasty draft, but I don't know what's happening with the contract there. I mean, they're unable to agree to a deal. Do they pay him? Do they not? Like I said, he's not the most athletic guy, you know.
But he's a big target.
He is kind of replaceable, but he is he is a big target, and you know they always did have Jason Witten, so maybe there's a soft spot for that tight end position. Maybe they, you know, maybe they let him, maybe they give him the contract to let him play with Dak for years to come. So, just a little something to think about dynasty wise, you know, with Schultz, that's happening there.
Yeah. And then just finishing off the bottom half of my team, Alan Lazard. If he's the de facto number 1 in Green Bay, that's got to give him some upside. Even if he doesn't go crazy with the yardage, Aaron's going to throw a ton of touchdowns. So if he's the beneficiary of close to double-digit touchdowns, maybe he doesn't go over, 900. Maybe he scrapes 1,000, 8 to 10 touchdowns. That's money as the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 flex category. And then I took some flyers. Another guy, Spiller, who's definitely in a good situation with a quarterback that I drafted. And then Dotson, some good upside. Devontae Parker, Tolbert, and then Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, you know, a guy that we don't see up there who we actually touched on, Julio Jones, right? I don't think anybody took Julio, did they? Probably just because obviously the news just broke, so his ADP is not, you know,
Odell got picked.
Accurate right now.
Odell got picked.
Another guy would be Michael Thomas. So let's talk about Michael Thomas real quick. Tell me about Michael Thomas, Hammer. Before I get into it.
Before you unleash, as Skip Bayless likes to say.
Don't make me rant. Don't make me go on a Mike Thomas rant.
So
go ahead. What do you think?
So full disclosure for everybody out there, we're in like a 6-7 person group chat in our dynasty league, and I don't know what it is about certain guys that make people lose their mind, no matter what the situation is, right? Like I could see the same thing happening with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, right? You saw him break down a little bit last year, and I was able to unload him because he has a big name. And I ended up getting really good returns. So a guy like Mike Thomas, listen, is he a tremendous receiver? That still remains to be seen. Was he a tremendous receiver the last time we saw him? Absolutely. No question about it. Now, when he was last playing, we saw him with a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's not going to a Hall of Fame quarterback
and head coach.
And head coach and Sean Payton, right? So a lot has changed in the last 2 years. So for me, I'm staying away from Mike Thomas just overall as a whole. I wouldn't draft him, and I probably wouldn't trade for him unless I was giving up magic beans. And if you do have him, and there are people out there willing to give you good value and good assets, go unload Mike Thomas. Do it and get good value. There's new competition as well in New Orleans, right? They picked up Chris Olave out the draft. They signed Jarvis Landry, a guy who's a proven receiver, to come in. Mm-hmm. Alvin Kamara, we still don't know, but he commands targets in the passing game as well. So I'm off the Mike Thomas bandwagon. I don't see what some of our contemporaries are seeing. So I'm off Mike Thomas. I don't want to.
At least I'm not alone, because I feel the same. way. You know, like you said, yes, he was a tremendous wide receiver. Is he still? I don't know. They botched the surgery. They botched that ankle surgery, and he had to go back and get it fixed again. So, you know, and you know, the fact that he didn't even practice he's not practicing 100% yet. You know, it's like, okay, I guess they're, you know, they're easing him back, which okay, I get it. But I mean, come on, the guy hasn't played in 2 years. We can't expect him to just come in and produce wide receiver one numbers. You know, the
He's
day
not. Yeah,
those
he's not grabbing
130
130 catches for
those
1,500 yards.
those 130 catch days are over. That's not the same offense. It's not the same QB. It's not happening. You know, can he come out and produce wide receiver numbers? Yes, sure. But again, what's the chances of that? And what are you willing to bet? How high are you willing to, you know, to draft him, or what are you willing to pay for him? You know, in dynasty. So I'm just staying away altogether. I'll draft him in redraft if I can have him on my bench. I'm not drafting him as a starter at all. If he falls, then I can grab him as a bench guy. Okay, I'll take him. But and dynasty wise, I don't want him at all. I had him originally on my on a dynasty team that I drafted last year, and
Nothing.
I got rid of him early on. I got rid of him, and it was a blessing. You know, but I was able to haul in a great return at the time. But
You know what
yeah,
you know what the problem is too, and what ends up happening with these big name guys, right? Like Julio Jones, Mike Thomas, and like I said, I love DeAndre Hopkins. He's a phenomenal football player. He's a beast. He catches everything. Love DeAndre Hopkins to death. But what ends up happening is, right, with these three specific guys, and maybe DeAndre to a little less of a degree, I do see some slippage, but what happens is you draft him or you pick him up based off name, and you expecting those numbers, wide receiver one, wide receiver two numbers. And when you don't get it, you're in big trouble now, because you're also what you're surrounding your team with is based off you expecting him to be that wide receiver one, high end wide receiver two. And when you don't get those numbers, the rest of your team isn't going to be able to pick up the slack, because you may have unloaded other talent, you know, or drafted Michael Thomas instead of somebody with better upside, or somebody in a better situation, or somebody who has a better track record of staying on the field. So that's really where a lot of people get burned, is expecting those guys that have a big name, that have produced in the past, to continue to produce at that elite level after surgery, after missing 2 years, or just natural decline.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, you gotta play the board too. You gotta play the ADP game. You can't draft these guys too early. You've got to draft them in the right spot. You know, you can't reach for them. You know,
So
I
Michael
mean,
Thomas got picked here at the 6'2".
oh, did he?
Yeah,
I thought he
6'2".
oh wow. Okay, so yeah, he got picked at the where are we?
6'2".
There. Okay, I see it here, Mike Thomas. So he did get picked. He got picked at the 6'2". Wow. So that is well. I mean, it's that guy's third wide receiver, so it's not horrible,
No,
but but they didn't have a QB at that point. Let's see, Hurts was still there. No, okay, not bad. I'm just trying to see if there's something there that would have been a better pick. Drake London,
over Thomas.
Pollard. No, I mean there's not great
Not really.
other options, so it wasn't a bad spot where they picked him there. But I
Would you
mean,
rather have Amon-Ra
first.
St. Brown over Michael Thomas?
I would rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm just not gonna mess with Michael Thomas, not in that area. I'll take him around after, but I'll take St. Brown before I take Mike Thomas.
Gabriel Davis?
I'm not sold on Gabriel Davis yet. I'm really not. I mean, he's now officially got the wide receiver 2 spot, but I mean, he couldn't beat out Emmanuel Sanders, you know, for that an old Emmanuel Sanders, and he just hasn't done anything. He's got one good game and one game with a bunch of targets. So
I think
I don't know. I'm not crazy sold on him. Not at his price anyway. Let me rephrase that. I'm a fan of Gabriel Davis. I do like him as a player, but I do not like him where he's being drafted. I won't pay that kind of price. I like other guys better in that area.
You know what it is too.
Where did he get drafted here?
Who?
Yeah, where did he get drafted? Yeah, Gabriel Davis. So he got drafted here at the 7-8.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I like Bateman better. I'd go Bateman over Davis. Let's see. Go Dirt went over there. Chase Edmonds, James Cook, I like there. Juju, I'll take over him. Elijah Moore, I'll take over him. Ayuk, I'll take over him. Renfro, I'll take over him. I mean, that's just me, but I mean, what do you think?
I think, and here's the point that I was thinking about too, as we just touched on Gabriel Davis. People are really high, and I was never really high on him. I think people's last image of Gabriel Davis was catching a bunch of touchdowns in that wild playoff game. So they're like, holy shit. Now, he is the number 2. No more Emmanuel Sanders. No more Cole Beasley. So that bodes well in his favor. I do think he will finish somewhere in maybe that wide receiver 20, 22 range. But I think he has really good potential. Stephon Diggs is obviously there, so he's going to get the boatload of the looks. They just picked up Spiller. James Cook.
I mean, I've seen Davis go, ahead of guys like Brandon Cook, St. Brown, Allen Robinson. I've seen him go in that area, and it's like, it's way, way too high. Like, I get it. Like, he's on a great offense, and he has, the potential to have a breakout season, but you just have to be mindful where you're drafting him.
You brought up a good point. You brought up Hunter Renfrow, and I love me some Hunter Renfrow. I'll be the first one to admit it. I'm a little biased. I picked him up off the waiver wire, and he was pure gold last year for me in that wide receiver 3 spot. But a guy like Hunter Renfrow, I trust a little bit more than Gabriel Davis from a consistency standpoint. I think Gabriel Davis can win you a week, and he can lose you a week if you expect him to be your wide receiver 2 and he gives you 6 points.
Yeah.
With Hunter Renfrow, he's my wide receiver 3, and I'm going to consistently get 10 points a game.
Well,
so from that standpoint, I do like Hunter Renfrow a little more than Gabriel Davis, but Gabriel Davis has a higher upside. Hunter Renfrow just has more of a stable floor.
Yeah. Well, guys, let's look at the teams here and see see what we think. I mean, you guys tell us what you think too. I'm right here in the 4 slot. Hammer's here in the 9 slot. But let's look at team 1 real quick. Kupp, Jones, Cheetah, Waller, Judy, St. Brown, and then waited on QBs and was able to get Rodgers and Lance, which could be, a dark horse top 10 QB. So
Patrick Mahomes was a dark horse his first season. So
I'm not crazy about. I don't like the running backs. I mean, Kenneth Walker is not going to be the starter. You'd have to hope for a penny injury, which of course can happen. And then Ronald Jones, Marlon Mack. So I'm not a huge fan.
He has Aaron Jones as well.
Yeah, I saw that. So he's got one running back really. So
also too, the interesting part with Aaron Jones is you kind of have to have him and AJ Dillon. You have to.
Yeah.
There's just you have to have them both at this point.
All right, team 2. Let's see: Taylor, Javonte, Evans, Lamar, Jacobs, Hockenson, Thielen, Lockett, Carr. Okay, not bad. What do you think about that team?
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty top heavy with the 2 running backs. For Javonte Williams, it's just interesting that they brought Melvin Gordon back. I know Melvin's a little older, but he will siphon off. He will vulture a few touchdowns and really prevent Javonte Williams from reaching his absolute peak. So just, if you're out there and you're high on Javonte Williams, which I definitely am, for redraft, I wouldn't. He can still go in the 2nd round. He probably should.
I'll take him in the 2nd. I'll take him as early 2nd. I mean,
yeah, it's tricky to see how much Melvin Gordon's gonna siphon off some of his work.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to siphon off as much as he did last year. I don't expect it to be that 50-50 like it was last year. I probably maybe 60-40, 65-35. But even still, with a split backfield, he finished as RB 17. Now you bring in Russell Wilson and a better offense and being more consistent and having way more opportunities. So even with the split backfield, I still see, he can be, almost
10,
maybe
12,
a back end RB1,
10, 12,
So,
yeah.
yeah, high RB2. So, and I mean, if Melvin gets hurt, that's, to the moon for Javante, but I still like him. I still like him. I think he could still be a top 10 guy. I know I said I might take him early second. I guess it depends who's on the board. I'm not a huge fan of taking RBs in the second and third rounds. I don't like that like dead zone. So like, that Chubb, Kamara, I'm just not
Barkley,
taking,
yeah.
I'm not taking those guys in the second round. I way much rather have a receiver like Cheetah, Evans, Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, CD Lamb, Debo. I just much, Leonard Fournette, do not take him in the second round. Just don't do it. Zeke, do not take him in the second round. You're just wasting value at that point. I'm not saying that they're not going to do good. I'm not saying they're not still, going to be fantasy productive.
But the value is relative to the pick.
Exactly. You just have to, play the game. You got to get the value, where it is. So, that's always important, So even though I say, okay, fade Zeke and fade Fournette and all that, just those are some guys I'm just fading. Not that they're not good. I just don't like them relative to the value, what you have to pay for them. So
yeah, like I said, this team is pretty top heavy. Lamar is the ultimate wild card. We talked about Lamar a little bit in previous episodes. So Lamar is the ultimate wild card. Josh Jacobs, man, I'm a Josh Jacobs fan. They're just doing him so dirty in Las Vegas right now. They don't pick up his option. They draft him.
I was gonna ask you about him because I know you have him
in Dynasty. I love
Hurts. And they're saying Kenyon Drake now is going to be heavily involved.
Well, not to get too off subject, I have all three of the Raider running backs on my Dynasty team, so I'm covered either way. But it does hurt because I do like Josh Jacobs. He's not the most efficient runner, but he's gonna get you some work. And if you look at his history, he's a pretty good running back, finishing 21st, 8th, and 11th the last 3 years. It doesn't always look pretty, but 28 touchdowns in 3 years is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, but then Drake was hurt last year, so you can't expect the passing, that receiving.
Yeah. And they picked up Zamir White.
So anyway, let's go on to this next team here. Eckler, Andrews, Allen, Dobbins, Williams, Cooks, and then they were able to get Dak and Kirk late. Not bad. I'm not particularly sold on JK yet. I mean, I know he had a great, rookie season, but they just like refuse to give him like the reins. They just draft guys. Gus Edwards is still there, and it's like Lamar Jackson is running the ball too. So it's like, dang, what am I really gonna get? So it's tough there.
I always for running backs. I mean, for running backs that play with running quarterbacks, that always scares the crap out of me. And I had Miles Sanders last year on a redraft team, and Jalen Hurts just vultured him so many times at the goal line. It was hard to watch, honestly. So same case applies with a J.K. Dobbins and a Gus Edwards. I can't trust them to produce at the level of a 4th round pick because Lamar Jackson is just going to siphon off so many carries and so many touchdowns.
Yeah. That team's all right as well. And then there's my team: Allen, Mahomes, Higgins, Metcalf, Moore. I know, you or some of the other people might not be, a huge fan of like that no RB strategy, but it applies in certain situations. It's not something you do all the time, but it just kind of depends on on the board, but I was able to kind of get nice RBs even though I waited. So I'm not mad at that at all. Typically, I like maybe a hero RB. I like to grab maybe one elite RB and then kind of work my way from there. I very rarely ever go like double hero RB, but I mean, like I said, in situations where it's there, it all kind of just depends on what happens. But yeah,
I
I like
think
my top
I
five.
think also too, if you're talking about redraft, I think going double barrel, what you call hero RB, is not a terrible route to take.
You mean double hero, two RBs?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the double. I guess you could say double hero or
yeah,
what else do they call it? Robust RB they call it. It's like the correct term.
yeah. So I'm not opposed to it in redraft and dynasty. I'd probably stay away from it. But in redraft, if you can get a Christian McCaffrey and a DeAndre Swift and even Team 5 has 3 of those guys.
In that situation, definitely I'll take a McCaffrey Swift. That's a great
so as you can see, it kind of depends, like you said, how the board falls.
Not speaking of that Team 5, not great quarterbacks. Nice running backs, a couple decent wide receivers, but my team's still the best so far. But all right, let's see. Henry, Barkley, Connor, Etienne, Mitchell. This
6 running backs.
It's just a bunch of RBs. That's just a bunch of baloney.
Yeah.
All right, Harris, Kamara, Debo, Kittle, Brown, London, Wilson, Juju, Fields. All right, I mean that team's all right. Jefferson, Chubb. I don't like Chubb there at that pick. Way too early for me. Pitts, McLaurin, Waddle, Hurts, Davis, Tua. I mean that team's all right too. And then there's your team. Yeah, we definitely got the best two teams. I mean Burrow, Herbert, Bateman, Lazard, Stevenson, Dotson, Cook, Lamb, AJ Brown, Brees Hall, Kyler. I like those first few picks right there.
That's not bad.
Those first 5 rounds are pretty good, and then they just totally lost me with the Miles Sanders. They just get and you don't take Miles Sanders there.
Not at the 6'3". No, hell no.
D Hop, Edmonds, Kirk. That team's all right too. Kelsey, Adams, Elliott, Gibson, Cooper, Thomas, Hunt, Stafford, Watson. Oof, I don't know about Watson. We don't know what's gonna happen yet.
But that's good value for him at the 9-11.
Yeah, it's not bad, I guess. But then you got to grab another QB, which they didn't. So
yeah,
folded on that. But that team.
That's probably. I actually like that team outside of both of our teams. 11 and 12, maybe even 10 a little bit, but
yeah,
that's pretty good. Team 12 with Diggs, Mixon, Akers, Deontay, Godwin. That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's all right. All right, yeah, that seems decent too. But yeah, we definitely got the best two teams. But yeah,
I mean, we've been doing this for long enough. We better have the best two teams if we're doing some mocks here. The thing with mocks is, and not that it drives me crazy, because you get an idea of where certain guys are going to fall, but it's just so unpredictable when you actually have other live people that maybe know as much as you or are into it as much as you are. And it can be, so that's what you're saying, Steve, is if you have a strategy, not to say that you can't target certain players, but if you have a strategy or a formula, that's really what you need to stick to, because the board isn't always going to fall your way.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll go live on the next one. This way, people can, we can get some people to join in.
Yeah, I would love that.
It's not just us in here. We could definitely get some other people. So that'll be cool. But what else, Hammer? Anything else?
Nah, man, I'm excited, man. We're getting ready to flip the calendar over to August, and now we got a preseason game next week, and the preseason's getting ready to get rolling. I know a lot of I'm gonna set up our redraft leagues are gonna start drafting, so it's getting pretty exciting. Crunch time is getting ready to happen. looking at your team every night for about a week and a half straight, wondering if this team is going to be awesome or not. And then
every night, I mean, numerous times a day, I'm looking at my dynasty team. I'm just constantly looking at, but I'm content with my one dynasty team, our home league one. I'm content with my.
Oh yeah, dude, I absolutely love my dynasty team. It's fun though. I like doing the dynasty, and obviously this was last year was our first year doing it, together, and it's just really fun. It gives it a different flavor. It gives it some, some long term. It really makes you put your GM hat on as opposed to redraft.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, redraft stuff is coming up. So like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about the draft or anything we talked about. Agree, disagree. Tell us how smart or how dumb we are, and
pretty much.
But yeah, just comment below, like, subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one. All right.
Crab cakes and football.
Shit.